Hello YouTubers, how are you doing? My name is Nit. Today we're going to be discussing and doing a quick talk and review over the Sigma 18 to 135 ART lens. If you're in the market looking for a constant aperture zoom lens, please stay around and we're going to be discussing this lens. So the first area that I want to cover with the lens is the build quality of the Sigma. First of all, if you've used a few Sigmas prior to this lens, you may notice that the build quality isn't just as good as this. But for the 18 to 135, I can say without a doubt that this is a very high quality lens. It feels very hefty in the hands. The mounts are actually made of metal in the back. Then these zoom rings and also the manual focus rings are also very smooth in operation. One good thing about this lens is that you can override the manual zoom while you're recording video, which is definitely a plus. You know, with the good build quality comes the weight. This lens does weigh quite a bit. For me, testing it on a scale, it rates around 849 grams, so nearly 1 pound. Okay, so definitely consider that. If you're going to mount it on a bigger camera, that weight is going to add up. But obviously, it will produce very sharp images. But all in all, for the build quality, I'm very impressed with this lens. You can be sure that this lens will obviously be able to stay with you even though you change your cameras into the future. So the second area that we want to talk is specifically on sharpness. So also, without a doubt, I want to say that this is one of the sharper lenses for your APS-C cameras. I personally use this lens on my 70D from Canon. And both for photo and video, the images are sharp at all, like pretty much if you shoot at the widest aperture at 1.8, it's pretty sharp across all the areas. Obviously, if you have some depth of field in it, the subject will be sharp. But in general, if you stop it either from f2.8, 5.6, f4, the images that you get will be very sharp. Okay. This level of sharpness is also is an improvement over your kit lens. So this leads to the third point, is recommended use for these lenses. Obviously for photography, with the limited zoom range of 18 to 35, I don't recommend this being a portrait type of lens. Obviously you may need a bit more zoom to do that. However, you can definitely use it for portrait. The 18mm is definitely wide enough to capture those wide shots, but the 35 at times isn't enough reach. So I personally recommend this lens more along the lines of you're shooting products, or sure, you can use it for people. You can shoot some landscapes, but I would say it performs well more in a controlled environment or also within low light shots. One thing to note with this lens is it does not have an image stabilizer. So obviously if you're going to shoot low light or use a little bit slow shutter speeds, make sure you have a tripod. That tripod will help you, or else you're going to get some motion blur with this lens, with the heavy weight too. If you hand hold it, you may get some shake and blur. From a selfie type of aspect, I also don't recommend this lens. It's very heavy to hold one hand. Also for vlog, I do not recommend this lens. For video purposes, this lens is awesome. I can tell you that. For many YouTubers online nowadays, they use this lens as it produces very sharp images at a literally fraction of many pro level lens. You can use and take advantage of its low light capabilities for video, so you don't have to have so much light or soft boxes around you. And also, yeah, the focusing. This lens does have autofocus and manual focus. Especially for myself, I use the 70D with this lens There's been some people saying that, you know, the focusing doesn't do well for video and also for images. The lens will back focus a little bit or front focus. It's not going to focus right on your subject. For my testing of the lens on the 70D, I did not have issues with this. Maybe Sigma has fixed this through a firmware update or stuff like that, but I did not have to go calibrate this lens or use the dock to readjust my focus here. It worked well right out of the box, okay, which is very impressive. Yep. So let's move on to our value and price. So this lens comes at a pretty, like, it's not a high price, but it's not a cheap price. Okay, this lens comes around, at the current moment of this filming, around $600 to around $799, depending on where you buy this lens. For its price range, however, I do want you to consider that you're getting pretty much 3 fixed lens in one at a very, very low aperture, 1.8. So the fact that it can zoom from 18 to 35 allows you to get like pretty much three fixed lens in that range. But again, it comes with the weight. So think of it like this: if you're gonna go travel or you're gonna go do some street photography, you can take this one lens to cover 3 lenses, but the weight of this one lens is pretty high. So I don't recommend you actually do that. If you can stay with the weight, that's awesome. I feel that, again, this lens performs more well in a controlled environment, or you're doing some studio shooting or shooting at home, some videos. But for the value and price, I would say it's priced reasonably very well. So if you can find this lens at around that price range, around $600, I recommend you consider trying it and testing it. Obviously, this lens comes in many mounts. I use a Canon. You can get the Nikon mount, the Sony mounts, and it'll work with the cameras from those respective companies. So, yeah, in a summary, if you are looking for a constant aperture of 1.8 across the zoom range, there are not many options out there of lenses that allow for this capability. So definitely consider the Sigma within your list. Right now, out of my APS-C lens collections, I would say this is my most favorite lens to use, indoors at least. Again, I would not really take it outdoors because it's heavy. I'm pretty picky with heavy things. But all in all, I do recommend this to you. If you do have questions about this lens, please let me know. On my channel, I have another video to test the low light capability of this lens, so maybe go check my video on the 70D shot at night with this lens at ISO 800, I believe. So thanks again, everybody, for listening to me talk today. See ya in the next video.